Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. You are joining the webinar with 7 ways to tell if it's dementia or normal aging. So thank you all for coming today. Pam's going to kind of go over a little bit of housekeeping stuff, and then we'll continue to get started.
All right, sounds good. So whether you're watching the recording or you're here live, I want to ask you guys a huge favor from both of us. So if you don't want to see these webinars or get emails asking you if you want to sign up, please just reply back to the email and say, I'm done, leave me alone, take me off the list, whatever words you want to use. I can take a hint, and I will unsubscribe you from our list. Because if you click on unsubscribe at the bottom of an email, any email, you actually damage the person's reputation in the email world, because it's a ding against us. So fewer people will see our emails moving forward because you unsubscribed. So replying back is the best way to let us know that you don't want to be part of the list anymore. So I wanted to ask you for that. And then I also wanted to talk a bit about the format of these. We had, some feedback saying, well, I thought this was a slide presentation. We don't do slides typically. Once in a while we will. If you would like us to throw in some slides, let us know. Reply back to any of the emails I've sent you, and we will add some slides and things if you want to do screen captures or whatever. Or if you want that information and there's resources or sources of the information, just reply back to the email and say, hey, when you were saying this, where'd you find that information? And we'll share it with you. So this is a two-way street. You don't have to just attend and leave and go away. Stay in touch with us. Ask us your questions. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that this is a conversation of Paige and I, and the questions that we get from caregivers, as well as people who are suffering from cognitive impairment of some sort. So just wanted to make sure you guys knew that. So Paige, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself for the people who don't know who you are, and then I'll do the same and we'll get kicked off.
Yes, my name is Paige Fairbanks-Gunn, and I am one of the regional directors for Kelch Communities. I am in the Arizona region. That's where I live. We have 40 communities across different 8 states, and the majority of our communities are memory care, directed care, assisted living communities. So that is the world that I live in and work with many, many families. And I've been working with families since 1997. And I'm happy to, Pam and I've been working together for, gosh, we're going on about 4 or 5 years now. So
Yep. Yep.
excited to have you on here. So,
Thank you so much, Paige. It's a pleasure always to work with you and have these conversations. Excuse me. I will tell you I'm having issues with my asthma. So if I cough, I'll try to mute myself, and I've got cough drops. So hopefully I can get through this webinar. So I'm Pam Ostrowski. I'm the CEO of Alzheimer's Family Consulting. And I'm also the author of It's Not That Simple, Helping Families Navigate the Alzheimer's Journey. And Paige and I have been doing these webinars and helping hundreds of people for over 2 years now. And so we are really focused on answering your questions, because this can be a bumpy journey. You might have highs and lows, and if you approach it with a sense of humor and be compassionate with yourself and your loved ones, things should not be as bad as you might anticipate, and you can even have moments of joy. So Paige, I want to ask you our first question, and this one's from me, is why are we having a conversation with our audience about what's the difference between normal brain aging and dementia? Why are we having this conversation in the first place? Any ideas?
why are we having this conversation? Well, because a lot of people get very confused on what is the difference
Mhm.
about normal aging related symptoms or forgetfulness and what really might be an actual diagnosis of dementia. That's why,
Yeah.
because people, they get confused. And there's a lot of confusing stuff out there too.
Right. And misdiagnosed, or
Mhm.
and the reason we wanted to talk about this, aside from being asked to, is that it can be scary, right? I know watching a loved one not remembering something, you might immediately think, oh, this person has dementia. Well, we're going to talk about that because odds are you really don't know. And we want to provide you with enough information and some direction so that you can successfully navigate whatever's happening. So let's get kicked off. Let me ask you the first question from one of our audience. This person wrote, what is the difference between age-related memory loss and dementia? It seems everyone thinks they're the same thing. So maybe you could talk to us a bit about that and then hand off to me.
Absolutely. Well, we all have some level of cognitive impairment as we age. I will tell you, I just turned 50 this year, and I am having some myself. I will tell you. I think we live in such a busy world, and you go and you forget oh my gosh, where did I park? Have I lost where did I put my keys? These things are very, very normal. Age-related symptoms, occasional forgetfulness, that is normal. Like misplacing things, those are normal. If you go into a room and forget what you went in there for, but you retain it back later, that's normal. That happens. Our recall is slower as we get older. So those are all some normal things. Not being able to really concentrate and focus because we can't maybe hear or see well as we get older. Those are all very normal age related forgetfulness, things that are normal. And as we get older, especially with the hearing and the sight, I'm definitely starting that too. So yes, and not being able to learn new things. I think that is a really definite, not being able to learn new things. That is where some of the concerns come in. But I'd like to kind of hand it off to Pam because she's going to kind of talk to you about actual dementia concern related symptoms.
Thanks, Paige. I appreciate it. And one thing that you saw me take a sip of water.
Oh,
We can
yes.
have
Water.
issues with cognitive impairment and brain fog because we're dehydrated. So we're talking 70 to 80 fluid ounces at least a day, and no, alcohol does not count. So
No.
your gin and tonics and your beers don't count. It's got to be water based. So coffee and tea are okay. There's not enough caffeine in there to counteract the benefit of being hydrated. And they say something like over 70% of Americans are walking around dehydrated. So we have a lot of brain fog going on, I think.
Mhm.
Uh, so dementia. First of all, dementia is not a disease, it's a condition. And it's a condition where you're losing your ability to function and to complete daily tasks, activities of daily living, or ADLs, or what they're called, in a comfortable and typical manner, a normal fashion. And so Alzheimer's in particular and that's accounts for between 60 and 80% of dementias. There's over 100 types of dementia. And with Alzheimer's, they basically, and long-term care insurance, if you have that, actually looks for two. If you are having trouble with two activities of daily living, then your long-term care insurance policy will kick in if you wanted to. But so the idea is that Alzheimer's is a disease. Lewy body dementia is a disease. Vascular dementia is a disease. So those are the categories, and dementia is an umbrella term. So when we talk about, and we're going to actually go through what the symptoms are. So overall, most people say, "Oh, well, I'm forgetful." Paige gave some great examples. You may be forgetful, but memory loss is only one of 10 identified common symptoms of dementia, as per the Alzheimer's Association. So let's talk about those top 10. So, Paige, don't you have a question for me?
I do have a question for you. Um, let's see here. So, what are the 10 most common symptoms? The top
So
10 common
the
symptoms.
top 10. Yes, we're playing David Letterman for question number two. So Paige, why don't we split these up? I'll take five and then I'll hand off and you can take five.
Okay,
Does that work?
perfect.
Okay. So the first one is not memory loss. They're in no particular order. So memory loss is something that we can talk about, but one of the first ones is challenges with problem solving or planning. So if your loved one picks up, well, and I've heard this before, picks up the phone and they're looking for something, and they maybe they open Facebook, but they don't know what to do next if they wanted to post something. So they've forgotten how to use a tool or a checkbook. I know most of us don't use checkbooks anymore, but the older generation does. But a recipe, if they're struggling with a recipe that's very familiar to them, they could do it in their sleep, making pancakes, and they can't do one step after another. So following a multi-stepped process because the brain can't retain what's next. Difficulty in completing tasks. So I had a gentleman who had his own farm, and his wife said he went out and tried to fix something, and it would normally be something it would take him a half an hour to fix, and instead it took him 4 hours. So it's the processing of, well, what am I supposed to do next? So I have to go get a screwdriver. Where is the screwdriver? And then you've got to go find the screwdriver. And then once you get back there, it's like, well, what was I doing? Right. So it takes a long time. And as Paige pointed out, your brain's processing power is lessened already by age. So if you have some brain cells dying as a result of amyloid plaques and tau proteins, tau tangles, then you've got less to work with. Let's put it that way. So confusion with time or place. And this isn't something as simple as, oh, I thought the meeting was this week and it's next week. I thought your birthday was yesterday and it's tomorrow, those types of things where we go, oh, I can't believe I forgot that. This is instead not being able to, you find yourself in a mall and you don't know how you got there, or you think it's, year 2000 and it's 2025. And sometimes I've noticed when you retire, you don't have the structure of a company and meetings and days and dates and calendars and coordinating calendars to pay attention to. And so one day it kind of blends into the next and they all kind of look alike. And so when they asked my mother, because we went through a 14-year journey of Alzheimer's with her, it was really funny because they ended up they asked her, well, so what year is it? And she's like, why does it matter? Because every year is the same. So, and then withdrawal from work or social activities. This is when the person is uncomfortable with going into, say, the grandson's soccer game, because there will be other people there. It might be loud, but also it might be, people want to talk. Well, if they're uncomfortable having a conversation, they can't find their words. They don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to be an embarrassment to their son or daughter and the grandchild. It's just safer and easier to stay home. So you will see them withdraw and not engage as much. And then you might also see some changes in mood and personality, meaning more irritable, more than anything, or anxious. My mother got really anxious, totally uncharacteristic of her. And that's how I knew something's wrong. And then I just started to watch, and Paige has some suggestions for what to do. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So, Paige, it's time to hand off to the next five symptoms of dementia.
So some of the other symptoms are, and you talked about changes in mood and personality. I would have to say that that's a huge one. Huge
Yeah.
one from what I see when I'm working with families in our
Mm-hmm.
communities, when families are coming to us. But trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. Not being able to, you've got you've got some, you go into a room and you have certain things you can't remember, you're not able to retrace what you were doing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't follow certain tasks. Um, New issues, and you're having word finding problems. So maybe you're utilizing other words for different meanings. If you've ever heard the term word salad, that is definitely a term in the dementia condition world. I actually met with a lady actually today. I did a home visit, and she has Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease, and very rapid. She's going down pretty rapidly, and she could not get out what she wanted to say, but she was bringing up other words to try to, convey what her message was. So, that's really can be very difficult. Um, and then also writing too. I mean, I think I've had people tell me that when they're typing things or they're texting, they're not able to come up with the word. So that's definitely a concern. And just again, putting items in different places and not being able to retrace where you put them. It's a funny thing. I used to always lose my keys, and I thought, oh my gosh, I must always have dementia, or it's always been there. And my husband, just a simple 101 common sense. He's like, darling, put your keys in the same place every day. Because I'm one of those, sometimes I turn into a squirrel and I'm too many things are going on. And so I just kind of, multitasking all the time. Well, he was so right. You just put the same thing in the same place every time. And I haven't lost my keys in about 7 years, which
Oh,
is
knock wood,
fantastic.
everyone.
Right. Now losing my car, that's a different story because for those of you that live in Arizona, it's always a white car. I always have to mindfully go, okay, if I'm at Target or Walmart, where did I park in which row of where are we on on this side or are we on the pharmacy side? And that's how I try to be mindful of where I parked.
Yeah.
So and decreased poor judgment and safety awareness, those are usually a big red flag as well. um, I've had some people come to me and families are like, oh, mom's totally fine. And well, let's dive down into that. And I said, could your mom call 911? And some of them say no, she couldn't. And I said, well, that's a major, major problem. If mom cannot dial 911, not knowing how to call for emergency or know that maybe there's a fire that started on the stove and not knowing that, oh yeah, those are some very scary situations. Those are definitely concerning. Poor judgment, decreased poor
An
judgment.
excellent example of and the other ones are as well. And I find too that with fraud and scams these days, now I'll just
Oh my
say
gosh, yes.
all of us fall for scams and fraud.
Yeah.
The whole oh, you have a package waiting and there's still $1.57 due on postage and we won't deliver it until you pay it. And then they ask you for your credit card. I think almost everybody falls for that one because you want the package. And of course, we're all getting
Right.
packages from Amazon or FedEx or UPS. And so that one, and then a lot of phone calls right now. Fortunately, the
Mhm.
either the phone manufacturer or the phone company have started to label those potential spam. And so you know to be cautious. But one of the other symptoms is having a difficulty reading. So a person with
Yes.
dementia, depending on their stages, again, we're talking warning signs. So even before, even early stage, more mild cognitive impairment, they're they're struggling, right, with do I answer the phone? And then if somebody says, oh, it's your bank, it's Wells Fargo, it's Bank of America, whomever, um they're a generation that's used to trusting who's on the other side of the phone. And
Right.
it's a generational difference. There's no way that younger baby boomers would fall for that one. It's like, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. You know what? You need me, you write me. And that's what they'll say too. We don't call you ever.
No.
So same with the IRS and other banking entities. So it's easy for them to fall prey. And that's one of the reasons why when we talk about memory care, and we talk about assisted living, it's look, this is a tool, but it can be abused and misused. And the families always say, oh, well, she needs to call me. And it's like, but is it worth the risk of her getting into a fraudulent or scam situation? There's just so many out there. It's really disturbing. So
Scams
yeah,
are really scary, and the fraudsters are getting more and more advanced. These,
yes. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And with AI especially. So, guys, if you have any questions, we've run through the top 10 symptoms of dementia. We've talked a bit about what's more aging related. If you have questions or we haven't defined that well enough, please put a comment in the chat
Yes.
that kind of gives us that information. If you're watching the recording, send us an email. Just respond to any of the emails I've sent and we'll get your question answered. Okay. We're really here specifically to serve you and to answer your questions and anything that you might be confused about. Okay. So Paige, you ready? So
Yes.
this other person wrote, my mom seems to be losing items like her keys or her glasses, another favorite, more frequently. Should I be worried about her? So what is your advice on this one or perspective? And then I'll intervene and give my two
Well,
cents.
my perspective on this is, again, there's normal age-related forgetfulness, and I would be how first of all, observe how often is this happening. Is it happening more frequent than other times? Are there other signs besides missing her placed items? Um, that part is journaling is key. I think everyone should journal if you have concerns or questions about someone's behavior or your own behavior, start journaling. But the key is get to a neurologist and get an MRI for a baseline. That really is going to tell all. Because yeah, I
It's a
mean, they're going to
photo
take a
of your
they're going to
brain.
take a picture of your brain. They're going to see if it's shrinking. They're going to see if there's holes in your brain. That's going to speak volumes of what is happening. That there's brain deterioration. But you know, because like Pam said, oftentimes we are seeing people get diagnosed with dementia and it's not dementia. People are there is we're seeing a little bit of a trend of some overdiagnosing. So I mean, just get with your neurologist and get a baseline with an MRI. That would
Yeah.
definitely be my suggestion. Um, you know, and also some factors to consider is she focused on the task at hand or does she not remember, you know, did she not remember that she misplaced them at all? That's another
Right.
thing is if she forgot that she misplaced them, you
Right.
know?
Right. How
So
bad
that's
is it?
that's and Pam talked about the dehydration. I mean, yesterday I was working and you and I did a planning call and I was like, I don't think I drank hardly anything yesterday. And I started and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to remember to drink. I've had a lot of water today. So,
So we'll be taking a
dehydration.
bathroom break.
Right, exactly. So, hydrating is huge because oftentimes, if you have dehydration, that just goes down a rabbit hole of potential,
Brain
forgetfulness,
shrinkage.
you're dehydrated, urinary tract infection, which
Yes.
can, cause symptoms of dementia. So there's a lot of different things that can cause symptoms, but you got to make sure that you're getting a baseline from your doctor, hydrating and journaling and observing what's going on around you and your
Yeah,
loved ones.
and the other thing that when we talk about because people have all asked, I just did a presentation for the Alzheimer's Association for AARP this morning, and people asked, well, what are the go-to diagnostic tools that are available? And I mentioned
Yes.
that there's a 4-hour, yes, 4-hour cognitive assessment. And first of all, this is your loved one's health, and you, including that person and the other family members, dictate what happens and what doesn't happen and how you want it to happen. And if the doctor doesn't agree, get a different doctor because
Yes.
a 4-hour cognitive assessment, honestly, I would need a bathroom break, drink a ton of water, and it would be really uncomfortable. And this poor woman came up to me. I was at a health fair for representing the Alzheimer's Association, and she's like, "Oh my God, I failed the test." And she said they put me in a room with this young woman, and she asked me all these questions for 4 hours. And she said, "I
Oh,
hate taking tests, and I get anxious, and I've never done well testing." So how accurate were those results? She was anxious. She doesn't do well
Mhm.
on tests. So it's all subjective. Now, granted, there's other ways to test. And honestly, I do a mini memory state exam. I'm authorized to do that. And it's 30 questions. You can do it for yourself or you can do it for someone else. There's online testing that you can take for yourself if you want, or do it with another person, your daughter, son, your spouse. But these 4 hour things are ridiculous. And it creates so much anxiety the night before that not in addition to the anxiety, you didn't sleep well. So sleep is huge in regards to demonstrating dementia-like symptoms or pseudo dementia. And then being stressed, whether it's about the exam or about something else that's happening in your family or your life. What are you worried about? So those are all influential factors. And if your doctor is going to say, well, you need to have the 4 hour test first, it's like, oh, no, I want a picture of my brain. And if you can't prescribe that, I'll find a doctor who will. Because a picture of your brain, pictures don't lie. So get that baseline MRI. It can't hurt to do it as early on as possible. If you're 60 or 65, talk to a neurologist and say, hey, I just want to see where I'm at. Can you prescribe that? And if 65 and older, you're on Medicare or your company policy, if your spouse has a job or if you have a job, both of those should pay for an MRI.
Yes.
So, there's no reason not to do it. There is a brand new blood test out that's less invasive, and MRIs aren't invasive, right? They're not sticking anything into you. But the blood test, obviously they're drawing blood and they're looking for particular things. It's brand new. I don't know about you, but I never buy a computer or a car in its first model year. So I'll let somebody else test that, but that's my personal preference. The other issue is hearing. So that was your
Mhm.
opportunity, Paige, to go, what?
I know. Hello?
I'm sorry, did you say something?
Please,
So,
please repeat
so
that. Yeah.
yeah. So hearing, so one of the things this woman said was, this woman was talking so fast and I couldn't hear and I couldn't understand what she was saying. So of course she got dinged for that. Now, anytime, so 65 and over, I draw a line at 65, but it's a variable line. Um, when you have hearing loss, your brain is busy. Like I have tinnitus. So the brain is constantly
Mhm.
hearing that and it gets tired, frankly,
Mhm.
because it's like, oh, that sound is so annoying. And then on top of that, if you can't hear well, your brain is also focused on literally capturing each word. So it's not paying attention to what the words altogether mean. So then once you figure out what the words were in alignment, oh, that's a sentence. Okay, what did okay, all right, now I know what the sentence said. Now give me a second. Let me think about what do I think about that. And we're used to just firing off and response, response, response. And as you get older, your brain just doesn't work that fast. So give your person, I guess I think
Grace
we can
and
talk about that.
patience.
Yeah,
Grace
I
and
think we talk
patience.
about that in a little bit. So we're going to talk about timing and everything in the next question. So I'll stop now, but we are going to talk more about hearing loss and patience and brain processing. So Paige, do you have anything for me?
We do have some chat questions. Do we want
We do. Okay,
to?
so we were on
Yep.
number 4. Just remember, we're on number 4. Haha.
Yes. We're on number 4. You want me to go ahead or you
Yes.
want to do chat? Okay,
Well,
I'll
let's
do
do
4.
chat. So, Holly, yes, that's the 4 hour test is only in the US, I believe, but it might be in Canada, and it might be in Europe. I'm not sure. I know for 100% it is in the US. Um, and odds are it's in Canada. It's pretty popular, and it's not just a 4 hour test, it's multiple tests. So God forbid that one wasn't bad enough. They do the mini memory state exam, they do the Montreal cognitive assessment. And then I don't know what else they do for the remaining 4 hours. But yeah. So did you want to field Mark's page? What
Yeah,
does
we
Mark say?
have. Okay, so Mark asked, my mom has a form of dementia. Mark is 42, she's 70. What can I do to minimize my risk for it? And is it hereditary?
So Mark,
Yes, and
it's not it's
yeah,
not
it's not. I
hereditary.
mean, yeah, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
They years and years ago, they did talk about that. It's it's, for example, let's say, okay, if I worked in, a physical, you know, plant
Labor intensive
and
job.
yes, exactly. If I did the exact same thing that my parents did, lived in the same town around the same things, it's more familial than anything, than hereditary.
So also familial, not in a genetic sense. So only
Correct,
2% of
correct.
those
More behave, yeah,
diagnosed, only 2% of those diagnosed
lifestyle.
actually have a genetic component that's similar
Right.
to relatives. So that means 98% is environmental, and that's what Paige meant by familial environment. Is
Yeah.
that if the whole family grew up eating, 3 eggs each every single day, tons of syrup and pancakes and processed food and carbohydrates and that type of thing, then the likelihood is much higher, and that's why
Yes.
everybody in the family, potentially has some sort of cognitive impairment. We also don't know if they were taking whether they have managed their high blood pressure, whether they've managed their diabetes, whether they've managed their cholesterol. All of those factors, those three things alone
Mhm.
can demonstrate or show up as dementia symptoms if those diseases aren't approached or conditions aren't approached and medicated appropriately. So it's not hereditary, and to minimize your risk, get your sleep, stay
Mhm.
hydrated, drink 80 ounces a day at least, and more if you're exercise. Exercise. So one of the biggest problems with vascular dementia is that my dad had it, and he had heart issues from the time he was 44. So, and he was treated, so it took him a long time. He was able to live a long life, but in the process, oxygen doesn't get to your brain because your arteries are clogged, your heart isn't pumping as much blood to the brain, and the blood isn't getting enough oxygen. Same thing with asthmatics. So that's a big issue. Diabetes is considered type 3. Type 3 diabetes is considered Alzheimer's because the sugar crosses the blood-brain barrier. So cut down on your sugar, your alcohol, all those things in moderation, right? It's not that we're saying eliminate them completely, but processed foods are your enemy. Let me tell you, put away the crackers. And so hopefully that helps you, Mark, and then we'll get back on track. So let's get on to number 4,
Number
Paige.
4. Okay, so another question that we've received is what is the best way to handle a spouse or parent who's showing signs of cognitive impairment? What's the best
Okay.
way to handle it?
All right. So this is a delicate question because a lot of times we as adult children have to try to take over, especially the
Yes.
daughters tend to be type A personalities. And it's like, Mom, you need to do this, or Dad, you should do this. Please don't use those words. And then, or what we think is more compassionate, I'm worried about you. And
Mm.
um, they don't want you to worry, so they're going to stop telling you everything. So
Right.
so we need to change our word usage and our communication techniques when we're having conversations about what's happening. Now, Paige brought up the term journaling, and I want to elaborate on that a bit because we want you to look at over time what happened, your observation, when it happened, and how long it lasted if it's relevant. So what you're doing here is you're basically creating a log, and the log is going to show what your observations are that are different than what you are used to observing. And they have to be significantly different. It can't be Mom couldn't find the car. It has to be Mom couldn't find the car 10 times. Now we're going to have a conversation. So keeping your channels of communication open, and the best way to do that, so here's the tip, here's what you say, is I may be wrong about this, but it feels like you're having some memory issues or confusion, or that you're just not feeling well. So kind of hedge, right? Don't accuse. Is there anything going on? Is there anything you want to talk about? And that's your first conversation, and keep it to 15, 20 minutes. And then there will be multiple conversations because you're going to continue to document, journal, log, pick your favorite word, of the differences that you see. Because the biggest thing that we do is we jump to the wrong conclusion. And the documentation helps us, as does observing the frequency. Because once in a while, once every 3 months or something like that, when you're in your 70s or your 80s, that's not bad. But if it's happening every single day, different story. How about you, Paige? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on how to handle that spouse or adult child and how to have that conversation?
It's, I mean, don't do for them, like you said, that once you start taking over and parenting, you cannot do that. That is, you will have a fire on your hands, an explosion. Having the gentle, supportive conversation with them, asking them, like you said, Pam, but also ask your siblings who is seeing them on a regular basis like you are, or that is really close to them. Start asking other people and really looking, at the whole unit situation. And maybe they're just stressed. I mean,
Yeah.
stress and not enough sleep really causes what I see oftentimes is husband and wife. Again, a couple that I met with today. The wife's 68. I've got a husband that's 75, Parkinson's. They're both not at 100%, and they're both caregiving for one another. And it's very evident that they need help. So, and it's stressing them out. So it causes
Sure.
more confusion, and they're not getting the proper sleep. They're not getting, the proper nutrition. So it's just kind of a snowball
The
effect,
snowball.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah. Oh,
snowball
wow.
effect. So really just, making sure that you're really observing and taking a really good dive into the big picture. What is really what is really going on all around them? Because, again, we don't want to get them diagnosed with something that maybe is, maybe there's something else going on. I always lean towards the fact, go see your doctor. Let's have let's get you in to get some blood work done. Let's start with that.
Neurologist.
And a neurologist if we're concerned, so you can kind of start process, do the elimination, the process of eliminating, what it might be,
Yeah. Because
and
I
maybe
know
you
that.
find nothing.
Yeah. I mean, when I went to my allergist and I was doing research on who to go to, one of the reviews said, my this doctor is so good because he diagnosed a heart problem. It wasn't allergies at all. It was a heart problem. And, who would have found that, right? So you just don't know what the body's doing. And a lot of times, if you're an adult child, your parents won't tell you
No.
because they're trying to protect you. We don't want to be a burden to our children. We're just going to struggle, because they're from that generation of hard work, struggle, we'll get through it and, push through. And yeah, that'll kill you.
Oh yeah.
So, that's the
I've
sad
had a
part.
friend that she's 80, my girlfriend, very good friend of mine, 81, and she was having, some she's got cardiac situation stuff going on,
Mhm.
and she's kind of put it off, and then finally it was like she needed a pacemaker, and it was
Holy
almost
cow.
like, oh my gosh, right when she got that, I mean within a month after the
Oxygen
pacemaker,
to the brain.
she was like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better, and I feel like I can think better, and I'm like, well yeah, because you needed that darn pacemaker.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of things that could come into play, but definitely doctor, and if you don't like your doctor, go get a second opinion. Sometimes you need a
Yeah.
third one,
Yeah. And then
unfortunately.
we were going to talk during this question about processing time, because I think a
Yes.
lot of times spouses specifically, but also children, adult children, are expecting that rapid fire conversation that they had 10, 15, 20 years ago. About how long do you think, Paige, and I know you break this down by stages. Should we, as people having conversations with older individuals who may or may not be struggling with dementia, they're just older. How long, what are the time frames? What are your thoughts?
I mean, with normal aging, I mean, I feel myself having to kind of slow down and really process a little bit longer. So, I mean, people that are, that we don't, that we're maybe concerned about, normal processing, it could be definitely 5, 10, 15 seconds. I mean,
Mhm.
it just really depends if it's, yeah, like I said, I mean, I feel like I'm slowing down a little bit and I have to sit back and really think, okay, what am I processing here? And it takes me a little bit longer. So, and that's
Right,
normal.
right,
That's
right.
definitely
And
normal.
if the person is really struggling, the way that you'll know is that after about 20 seconds, if you get a
Yeah,
blank stare, like I have
right.
no, and my mother would do that to me. She'd be like, I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean, she would just stop there and look at me like, I don't have anything for you.
right.
And that's how you know something's not right. That doesn't mean it's dementia. It doesn't even mean it's normal aging. It could be that there's a heart issue or something else going on that's affecting the brain's capabilities. So really
Yeah, I believe.
important to be patient and pay attention to those symptoms. Okay, Paige, got a question for you.
Okay.
One person asked, is getting
Oh,
dementia guaranteed?
oh, getting dementia guaranteed. No, it is not. It is not guaranteed. I have, cognitive slowing is normal. We talked about that. That's normal aging, but no, it's not guaranteed. We have residents in our independent living. I have two, I mean more than two, but I have two that are amazing. And one of the ladies at our independent living, she is going to be 91, and she went up to Show this last weekend. She's gone for 2 weeks. She flies all over the country. She's involved in all the activities. And then we have another resident that's a gentleman, and he volunteers for driving meals, like Meals on Wheels, to residents and into the community. So no, it's not guaranteed. But I think that the slower processing is absolutely likely. And every person is so different, so it just really depends.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And you guys, what I'll do is I'll send you after this, I send you this recording. About a week later, I'll send you another recording, which is actually what is assisted living really like, or senior living really like. And we have three people on there that are ambassadors for Kelch communities that just give you so much hope for aging. I mean, these people are vital. Two of them are in a romance
Yes.
together. I mean, it's just they're thriving in an environment that's supportive of them. So, I honestly don't understand the philosophy of I'm going to age at home alone. Great. You're going to
Right.
die lonely, isolated, but you'll be with your stuff. And you're not going to
Right.
remember what stuff that means anyway. So what's the point? So build
I mean, my
relationships.
aunt moved in. She's 76, and
Yep.
she's one of the most, I mean, she's more active now than she was at home. And she's playing Rummy Cube, and she's going to the dinner theater and in our independent living, and she's staying busy, and that keeps her healthy.
Well,
When you're
exactly. So
socializing with people and you are exercising your brain by visiting with people and doing games and staying active is really a good thing for you. It keeps
yeah,
you
and
healthier.
and that's actually did research. I think it was a couple of years ago. And Paige, you probably have the article. But that living in independent living or assisted living in a senior living community, and it could even be condos or whatever, but living with other seniors where there's organized activities. So, Mark, to your question, what can you do? Learn a new language, play a game, learn a new card game, learn a new game. I have a game called Alhambra, and it has 12 levels, and I've never gotten past level 3. I'm just saying, because we only play it once or twice a year, so I forget how you play it. So we start over again. But it's I'm still learning. I'm still re-exercising my brain on, oh, what is it we do? Oh yeah, that's right. So learning new games, learning new puzzles, not Sudoku and not crossword puzzles. Those are not the right kind of puzzles. Um, uh, jigsaw puzzles are actually really good because it helps with your spatial visual. And by the way, if you're having issues with vision, definitely get your vision checked, because the brain's if it changes, and the person's having problems with visioning things properly or the same way you see them, it could be a dementia symptom. So make sure that you get your hearing checked and your eyes checked at least once every 2 years. So that's another preventive message for Mark. Okay, number
Absolutely.
6. That's you, Paige, asking me.
Okay. Then So we've had a person, of course, and this is a good one for everybody, is what can we do to improve and maintain our brain health? And we've kind of talked a little bit about that, and we'll kind of roll into some of that.
Yeah,
You'll hear us
yeah,
constantly be talking about fluids,
right. In a good
always
way.
fluids.
In a good way,
Yes.
because it prevents, if you're hydrated, then you're not going to get a UTI because your urinary tract is constantly hydrated and you're constantly getting rid of toxins in your bloodstream. So if there is bacteria someplace where it shouldn't be, you're going to flush that through with water or whatever water-based fluids you're drinking. So the other thing is, and I mentioned earlier that if you're exercising, you need to drink more than the 80 ounces. I drink a gallon of water a day. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. And if you need tips on how to do that, get these 24-ounce bottles of water. And the reason, especially if you have someone with cognitive impairment, you have to get a clear bottle. Using the opaque one, like Paige, you can put your cup up
Hmm.
there. They're not going to know if there's any water in that or not, so they're going to ignore
Right.
it.
Clear.
So you need to go with clear. And then you put out 3 of these, and the 3 have to be gone before you go to bed. You start in the morning and be done with them by the end of the day. And then you add more bottles as things go on. But that's how you keep a clean system and you keep your brain hydrated. So if you're exercising, getting your heart rate up. Now, I
Hmm.
don't mean up to 150 beats a minute or 160 beats per minute. Um, you can do that depending on your age, but even for people in their 60s, getting it up to 120, 130. So that's a walk, right?
Hmm.
It's not a saunter, it's a walk, right? So you're moving. And that gets more oxygenated blood to your brain. Very important. And then if you're struggling with remembering things, or if you have someone in your life who is, then suggest saying it out loud. So, Paige, my
Yes.
advice to you is to say, I put my keys on the kitchen counter if you don't put them in the same place every time. Or I put my keys here because a lot of times we're on the phone when we walk in from the car, talking, drop stuff, put my glasses down here, keep
Hmm.
talking. Your brain cannot multitask. It is physically impossible for your brain to multitask. So instead, what it does is it single processes really fast, which is wonderful until you hang up the phone and go, where are my keys? Where are my glasses? And it's because your brain can only
Hmm.
focus on one thing. And if you're focused on the conversation, then you're not going to be focused on other things that you're doing, like letting the dog out, getting the litter
Yes.
back in. Um,
Yes.
so there's lots of different factors there. But if you really want to remember something, write it down and say, excuse me, doctor's appointment, 10 a.m. Thursday, and give a date. And then read it out loud. That will commit it to long-term memory. Anytime you speak something, like I put my keys on the kitchen counter, it commits it to long-term memory. So frequently, we're used to being able to remember things with our younger brains by just, taking a look and going, okay, that's where I put it, and retracing your steps. But
Hmm.
as you get older, that's a little harder to do. So it's best to say it out loud or write it down if it's really important, and then say that out loud. And what that does is invokes your subliminal, is it subliminal? Sublingual voice, which is the one that reads in your head. You hear your voice, da, 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 da. And that helps you remember things. So if you're looking for tools, that's a tool. What do you think, Paige? What are some advice? What's some advice for brain health?
Well, there's one that's really funny for me is I can't remember names. It's terrible. I'm terrible with names.
That's
I
bad for
always
your
have
job.
been. I even went to a class, a workshop, and I was able to get all the names, but do you think I'd use that exercise and remember the exercise and use it all the time? Um, I often think of, just I think of when I try to figure out names, I think of somebody that, oh my gosh, they look like someone famous, and that's how, and I say their name 5 times, and that helps me remember. But learning new things, trying new games, take a dancing class, learn a new language,
Great one.
um, you know, read, all sorts of new things. But exercise, I think, is huge. I try to exercise as much as I can. Walking is really good for you, but um, Pam, that saying it out loud is definitely something that will help you, writing it down and focusing on one task at a time. We live in such a crazy fast world, and for those of us that are still, working full-time jobs, and there is no such thing as a 40-hour work week anymore. So we are working more and sleeping less. It's slowing down, really trying to slow down and focus on the task at hand.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just in the process of typing answers to questions
Okay,
and
okay, good.
yeah, so
You,
that because
we're
we're
responding back
running.
to Evelyn and
Yeah, so Evelyn, I'll give you the short version and I'll finish this up. But
and Linda.
yeah,
And there are some
so
circumstances like
Linda,
hers. There
I
are.
already answered in
Yep.
the text. But with Evelyn, the processed food industry started in 1946, right after World War II. Everybody in your family has eaten tons of crackers. Think about Ritz crackers. You look at an ingredient label in the US and it's this long. You look at one in Europe and it's this long.
Yeah.
We're eating a bunch of garbage
Yeah.
and creating business for the medical industry. That's the bottom line here. So if we continue to eat junk, our brains are going to rot. That's the short end of it. And so it's not hereditary just because everybody had it. If they're all in the same generation, meaning from 1946 to 1964, that's the processed food industry. And oh, by the way, that processed food industry has only gotten worse. If you've ever seen some of the documentaries on our food and how much sugar is in it and how they
Oh,
make the
yeah.
Doritos crispy and cheesy, yeah, none of that's real. It's not real
No.
food.
No.
And that's the reason I believe that we're seeing this so much is that we're putting garbage into our bodies generation after generation, and it's affecting our brains and our health overall. And as our health decreases from other diseases, it also affects our brains. So,
I look back at when I was in my eighth grade science project and we were dissecting frogs and all that stuff like we all did back in my generation. But we did put a nail in a can of Coke, and I think it was a week later and the nail was gone.
soda, yeah, so bad for you.
So bad.
Um,
So yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's bad. It is.
yeah,
And I'm sorry to
yeah,
hear that, Evelyn, that's
yeah. That
from young
is,
ages. That is very young.
yes, absolutely.
And the
And
MRI above with Linda, really
frequency,
the MRIs, how frequently should MRIs be done? Once you get a baseline, discuss it with your doctor and find out, how often those should be done.
right?
Um,
But there's no reason why you can't do it once a year. I
yeah,
had a question earlier today that said, does it make you sick? If you have too many MRIs, and I'm like, well, that's the least of your worries if you're going in for brain health. So
yeah,
if you get your first one is going to tell you if you have anything wrong and what it looks like. And if you notice any of the symptoms and warning signs that we've talked about, then
Mhm.
that would justify going back to the neurologist and saying, hey, I know it's been a couple of years, but I would like to get another one because I'm feeling differently. I'm thinking differently. I'm behaving differently. And that's when you can have another one. But if it's really the neurologist, absolutely, Paige will tell you that what you need to, whether you should move forward with another one or not. So,
Exactly.
okay. All right. We've got one
This is a
last
good one. We
question
got
for
one
you.
last
Yes.
one.
So the last one is, what if a loved one does get diagnosed, Paige? They get diagnosed with dementia. What's the next step?
You get a diagnosis, the next step is don't bury your head in the sand. That's my first
And don't
comment. And
panic.
don't panic. Exactly. Don't panic. And depending on who your doctor is, if you feel like you need to get a second opinion, I'm huge on second opinions. Um, start talking to your family members about what is going on because your loved ones are going to help you. You need to start talking about it. You need to start really looking at future, start looking at places. If you can live longer and you can live really well with dementia even in an independent living community and an assisted living community. Not everybody needs to go to a memory care community.
Not
Um,
very many actually, but percentage-wise do.
yeah. But if you are surrounding yourself with people and new things to do, and you have a psychosocial, well-being in your life, and you're staying social, and you're exercising your brain in other ways, and doing fulfillment things in your life, that's going to help you. But starting to get your affairs in order is definitely something. If you have a diagnosis, your powers of attorney are crucial. That would be number one. Your healthcare power of attorney, which includes in Arizona and is also following in many other states, is your mental healthcare power of attorney. That would be first and foremost. Get those advanced directives in order. Your financial advance directives in order, your general power of attorney, durable power of attorney. Um, get all of that in order. Make sure that you are reviewing it at least every 5 years because relationships change. Um, and because people can live with dementia 10, 15, 20 years. They really can. And live well with dementia. I see it. I see it happening. But start doing your homework. Start getting your ducks in a row. We call that the ducks in a row. Get your
Duck
ducks in a
ducks.
row. Get your
Duck ducks.
ducks in a row. I think everybody should have your advance directives. I mean, I'm 50 and I am a grandmother, recent grandmother, and my husband and I just got all of our advance directives done. Well, we started 10 years ago, but I just redid them all a few years ago. Once you even have children, I mean, and you become, if you're age 65 and you don't have your advance directives in order, shame on you. Get them done. Because
Yep.
it's one of those things that unfortunately time flies as we get older. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden something might happen and then you don't have this stuff and you don't have it done. And if you don't have your advance directives done and you get a diagnosis and something major happens and you can't make a decision, you're going down a whole nother rabbit hole of a guardian and conservatorship, and it's not good and it's a lot of money. So just get them
Right.
done. And you
Yeah.
can
And
find them
the
on, you can find them online on your attorney general's website. They're all free.
Yeah, I would advise engaging an estate attorney for certain things. So if you
Yes.
actually do
Yes.
have property of any sort, I
Oh
had a
yeah.
good friend of mine die at the age of 42, and he didn't have
Yeah.
powers of attorney, so his mother had to fight for them.
Yep.
And now everything's in probate. So if you want to give a gift to the people that survive you, get a trust, and in the trust you put everything, and then the will says points to the trust. The trust allocates all of your assets, whatever they might be, whether it's money, things, jewelry, art, whatever you have that you want to
Right.
have go to whomever, you put it in the trust and it won't go to probate after you die. So that's really an important aspect or a document as well. Those four, I call them the fabulous four
Yeah.
documents. So you got ducks and I got fabulous. So so just to wrap up, if you have a loved one, if they're starting to show any signs of cognitive impairment, dementia or not, all right, they're
Right.
having issues with short-term memory. If you have travel plans, if you've always wanted to go to Italy, go to Italy now. Go to
Yep.
Italy sooner than later because
Yep.
one, it's going to be a much more enjoyable experience. Traveling with someone with dementia as it progresses becomes almost impossible because they get disoriented. You have to go to the bathroom with them because they don't know how to find their way back out. I mean, it's complicated. It's not impossible, but it's complicated. Do it while it's easier and you'll make fantastic memories. And you, again, like Paige said, you just don't know how long it's going to take. Progression slows when you do the right things. When you eat well, you drink well, you get your brain assessed, or even an MRI. When you do all of those things that we've talked about in the last hour, your body will go, whoa, wait a minute. What happened to the
Right.
chips and gin and tonics? And and then it'll say, I feel so much better. And you will feel that difference over just a few months. And so it's really important. That's what, people say, oh, well, I want to take a drug, I want to take a pill. Well, dementia is not that kind of disease, the condition. Alzheimer's is not that kind of disease. There's no pill, there's no treatment. And
It's
so,
It's
if you want to
it's
slow it down,
me.
change what you're doing is clearly not working. So change what it is that you're doing and follow the advice that we've given. And you'll stand a much better chance of living a long, healthy life with maybe
Yes.
some age-related cognitive impairment. But that's just going to
And
happen. So
And so, sooner is smarter. So not only your advanced directives, but go look at a community, look
yes.
at an independent living, look at an assisted living. Doesn't mean you're going to do it now, but there's nothing wrong with walking into a community. You would be shocked at how beautiful these communities are. Um, I work in them every day, and I'm in our independent living communities where my aunt lives, and I will tell you, I started in the 90s, and we have come so far at beautiful resort style living and a really wonderful, happy, supportive life for people, and it's all about their well-being, and
Yeah.
and it's happiness for them,
Well,
and
it's
support
having
groups. That's
staff.
another
Let's be
one.
honest. I told my mother that when we were going looking at communities, and she was far progressed, and we should have done it earlier, but Dad resisted. And I said, Mom, people are going to do your laundry. They're going to clean your
Yes.
apartment. You've got a two-bedroom,
Yeah.
two-bath apartment. These are not like their college apartment. The two-bedroom, two-bath apartment, and you have gourmet food. You've got linens in the dining room. You've got piano concerts in the
Mhm.
main room, and you've got a music agenda and a pool room, and you've got all this stuff. And I said, and finally, you have staff, Mom. You have people to wait on you hand and foot. And she's like, I like that.
Yeah.
It's one of the few
Oh yeah.
sentences she could say. She's like, I like that. And I said,
I
me
like
too.
that.
I'm moving in with you. We're kicking Dad out.
Yes, yes.
So
And
give it
two,
some thought. It
also,
can't hurt, right? It
it
can't
cannot,
hurt
it
to
doesn't
walk in
hurt.
and say, I just want to look around,
Just want to
but
look around. Just pop in unannounced and just say, I want to look
yep.
around, and you'd be shocked. And another last thing is support group. We're doing them, we're really trying to get them going in Arizona, and hopefully it will spread in other states. But early, we're doing dementia support groups. It's not just for the caregiver, but we're doing support groups for people that have been diagnosed
Yeah,
with dementia.
yeah. So
So
memory cafes are all over the country.
memory
Lisa will look
cafes.
that
Yep.
up. So they are all over the country. So be sure to look those up if you need help in that respect. If you need more resources, Paige and I have both put our contact information in the chat. So be sure to grab that now. Or again, you have my email address. If you need to reach Paige, I'll send you over to her. So we're here for you. You know how to reach out to us. And hopefully we've made it easy for you. Hopefully you found this informative. And we'll be back again next month to talk
Yes.
about another dementia caregiving type of scenario. So watch out for that email. And remember, if you don't want to get the emails, just let me know. Reply back. Don't unsubscribe. Just reply back so that more people can get the emails and we don't damage my email reputation. So thank you
Yes.
guys. We appreciate it and hope you
Thank
found it
you,
helpful.
everybody. Have a
Take care.
wonderful day, and we'll see you next month.
All right, great. I'm glad you found it helpful, Linda. Take care. See you next
Thank
month.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Paige.